drama. Let's do it. Of course, everybody knows Christian Pulisic is not playing in the Gold Cup, right? After last season at AC Milan, has decided to take a break.
Okay.
Now, Landon Donovan, of course, American great, was on the Fox coverage of the Nations League over the weekend talking about Ronaldo, and they were watching the video of Ronaldo celebrating. This is Landon's commentary. He's 40 years old. He's played a long-ass season. He's tired. He's out there grinding, hurt himself in the process, and I can't help but think about some of our guys on vacation not wanting to play in the Gold Cup. It's pissing me off, end quote. So that's from Landon Donovan.
We can say all these things?
I guess so. ESPN After Dark. It is on our website, I'm told, by production. Okay, so there was obviously a response, not from Christian Pulisic, but from his father, who very cleverly used ChatGPT to ask about Landon Donovan's career. And if you know anything about Landon's career, well, Landon Donovan took his sabbatical because he was feeling both physically and mentally exhausted after years of intense competition and pressure that comes with being a top athlete. This break allowed him to rest, travel, and ultimately return to the game with a refreshed mindset. It also, for those who remember, ultimately ended up costing him the 2014 World Cup. Now, people are rushing to Christian Pulisic's defense, including his teammate, Weston McKennie. None of us take for granted that we get to represent a national team. We want to play, but obviously, if you don't feel like your body is in the right condition and you feel like you're risking injury, then it's better to let someone else go in that is completely 100%. And last but not least, Eddie Johnson, who, for those that don't remember, played on the U.S. team that went to the 2006 World Cup in Germany. Eddie said, LD, come on, man, we can't question this man's love for representing his country. A career in MLS can't compare to the workload and travel of a player whose entire career was in Europe and has to travel from abroad to the States. For friendlies and qualifiers, we saw what the Gold Cup meant to him. He's won one before. Let's make the main focus the World Cup. All right, we got three guys that live in the United States here on this set and one guy who does not.
Soap opera.
Can I get the outsider's perspective?
Well, it's just
Is the Scottish national team at all like this?
I mean, it just feels like a ridiculous situation, doesn't it? I mean, I don't know enough about Landon Donovan taking a sabbatical, but it's pot calling kettle, isn't it? How can he call out a player when he took the same break? Makes no sense to me. It feels like an absolute soap opera. And everyone's involved.
I think he's used the wrong analogy as well. You can't use Ronaldo as your go-to.
Sure.
Because every time Ronaldo steps on the field for the national team, it could be his last time. So that it's a completely different.
Also, Ronaldo's playing in Saudi Arabia. I mean, it's a different.
Not exactly taxes. So he's using the wrong example in Ronaldo.
Ale?
The sentiment of I think of the conversation and the opinions of Landon Donovan are not too far off from the neighborhood of being correct.
I'm sentiment. With you. Yeah, I'm with you.
Now, Landon Donovan, because of what you just said and what Christian Pulisic's dad also pointed out, probably is not the conduit of information, the most appropriate messenger in this particular subject. As it pertains to the message itself, you think about the World Cup being a year from now, and we have mentioned time and time again, that's a year on the calendar, but actually it's very limited opportunities that the United States is going to have to get together and actually look like a team. The reason as to why Stevie was defending Pochettino the other day was because, well, he doesn't have the players. Well, the players are on vacation or are injured or unavailable, so his best player, his best group, hasn't been around together consistently. And so therefore, we're still questioning as to what is this team under Pochettino? What is it that they're trying to do? What is the game plan? What is the identity? We haven't seen that. You would think that playing the Gold Cup would be a unique opportunity for this team to get some of these things right in tournament competition ahead of the World Cup coming up in 2026. Well, that hasn't been the case, and it hasn't been a priority. And culturally, in this country, for whatever reason, European-based American players overlook the Gold Cup. It's not something that they think is important, even though for me, it would be a priority given that that's your regional tournament. Just like Copa America is for Argentina and Euros are for Spain, for example. But that has not been the case in this country. I think all of this could have easily been addressed. In the case of Christian Pulisic, his last game with Milan was May 24th. If I'm Mauricio Pochettino and I'm handling this situation, I say, listen, I need all my guys, those that are not injured, I need them on this camp. We need to get this right ahead of the Gold Cup. We need to be in a competitive environment. I'll tell you what I'll do, Christian. It's May 24th, your last game with Milan against Monza. Take 2 weeks off, 2.5 weeks off. I don't need you for the game against Turkey. I don't need you for the game against Switzerland. But you be here the day after the game against Switzerland, and you be ready to start the Gold Cup on June 15th. And all of us can now work together. And that could have been the message given to all the players that had a very long, stressful, draining season in Europe. But that wasn't the case. And so now the United States go into a Gold Cup with a bunch of players that more than likely, none of them, or most of them, will not play a role in next year's World Cup. So how useful is this tournament then for the United States? It isn't.
But that's an ideal scenario. That's a good suggestion, but it's also an ideal scenario. I'm coming from Pulisic's point of view of having been injured.
You missed the World Cup.
And then playing in the world, and then playing for a country, and then missing a season. And guess what? My country couldn't have given a stuff about me missing a season. They couldn't have cared less. You know, all this, the federation, if Pulisic breaks his leg and doesn't play for another 2 years, do you think the federation's going to be calling him up every week saying, how are you doing? No, he's done. He's no use to us. So I'm 100% with Pulisic. That's a great suggestion. It's also an ideal scenario. And unfortunately, ideal scenarios don't pop up too often. And if I'm Pulisic, I'm doing the right thing. If you miss the Gold Cup, and I understand that it's a good opportunity, but if you miss the Gold Cup and you're flying in the World Cup this time next year, do you think any of us are going to have a problem with him missing the Gold Cup? Not at all.
As a coach, though, can you put yourself in Pochettino's shoes? Not necessarily not just on Pulisic, but with all the guys we're talking about. A year out from the World Cup, you don't have your team. You're going into a tournament.
It's a nightmare.
I mean, that's not ideal. That's the definition of not ideal.
It's an absolute nightmare scenario for Pochettino. But again, I'm coming from a player's point of view. You know, at the end of the day, Pochettino in a couple of years is probably going to be somewhere else in some other part of the world, and he's not going to be bothered if I'm Christian Pulisic and I've ended up overextending myself because I'm tired and I get a bad injury and then I'm out for 6 months or whatever it is. So I'm always going to come on the side of the player, as bad as it is for Pochettino again.
You've talked about it in the past. You played in the 86 World Cup. You effectively chose not to play in the 90 World Cup, right?
Yep.
Because of club priority.
I needed surgery, my shoulder. Yeah. I could have got away with it.
Right. That's not a Gold Cup, by the way.
I'd already been through that scenario of missing a season after the last World Cup. Yeah. I wasn't going to do that again.
All I would say is we are now months into the Pochettino, nearly this experience of Pochettino.
Not a lot of momentum.
And we still don't know what this team is all about under Pochettino. And so, again, time is running out. The window's closing. And the opportunities, because within the middle of the season, you'll get a few chances here and there, but that's about it. And what happens in the middle of the season if players are not available, if players are not released, whatever all the situations that come about? You still don't have a core group of players, and you don't have an identity as to what is it that you want this group to be. And the only way that you do that is by having the players working with you on the field. That hasn't been the case.
Can I find some silver linings?
Sure, go.
There's some potential moves that might be very good for American players. One, the goalie, Matt Turner, reportedly set to join Lyon for about €8 million from Nottingham Forest. The other two, still a little bit of work to do. Yunus Musa linked with Napoli. Of course, he's at AC Milan currently. And Johnny Cardoso, who plays for Real Betis, has been linked with seemingly everybody, but most recently Atletico Madrid after a very good season in La Liga.